You might spend weeks writing standard operating procedures for your business that nobody follows. But what if I told you that the problem isn't your team, it's your method? I just created a complete facilities management SOP in 61.5 seconds using AI, and it's more detailed than anything I could write manually. Here's the contrarian truth. The best procedures aren't written by managers, they're extracted directly from the people doing the work. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. I'm building AI Capitalist to talk to the leaders and the thinkers like you about navigating this brave new world of thinking machines. When I first started as a green engineer straight out of college, I was shown an office, shown a desk, and given a pile of paperwork, and they told me to basically get to work, sink or swim. Me and another junior engineer were a little bit frustrated with the situation, and there was no training. But in reality, from the business owner's perspective, it doesn't make sense to train people. There's so much turnover now. Why would you invest a year in having someone not work or take someone senior off of their task to train a junior person when it's 50-50 they're going to be there in 4 years? From the perspective of the new engineer like me, it was really frustrating. I would have to wait for my boss to come back from meetings to sit down at his desk to run over there and just to ask him questions. Why are we using 304 stainless steel for this pump impeller? What's this drawing? And then he would go off to his next meeting and I would just have to sit there just twiddling my thumbs. It got to a point where another junior engineer and I were inventing a device. We were thinking of a device where there would be a push button, pressure actuated sensor, where we would sneak it under my boss's seat. And then every time he sat down, it would set off a light somewhere near our desks so that we knew he was back in his office so that we could run over there and ask him the questions we'd been sitting there hours waiting to get to. It's just not the way to live. And in today's age of AI, there's a better way to work. And that's through developing proper SOPs. The scope of performance is just a very detailed listing of the tasks that a person in a new role needs to fulfill. And today I'm going to show you how to use AI to build one that's better than anything that you could build yourself. All right. So with all that, we're going to use AI to fill this role. Let's start off with some of our research here. What we're looking at here is really all of the research that we've done on the position. So in this case, I've gone to every shop. Now, typically in a facilities management organization, you have different trades who are all working together to keep the facility up and running. So you're going to have engineers, you're going to have electricians, and each of these have their own certifications, and each of these kind of act as their own organizations within the organization. Now, a planner scheduler is going to interact with each of these. It's important to get past the sort of generic planner scheduler role and then get into exactly what does a planner scheduler do in a sort of custom way for your organization. So I have here these M4As. I'm going into meetings with all of these different organizations. I'm talking to them about what tasks did they have in mind that a planner scheduler could do. So all these M4As are just audio files. I start the meeting. I say, guys, I'm going to record this meeting so that I can go back through it and everybody's okay with it. So I record it. I also take notes. So in this case, in the electrical shop, I took some notes, and I also have some emails here. These are just I extracted my own emails on the subject from my inbox with supervisors and other people I have had conversations with throughout the site. All right, let's get to it. So we're going to start with Google AI Studio, which is right here. The benefit of using AI Studio is that it has native speech recognition. So far, I've found this to be the only AI where I can directly upload my audio recordings from all those meetings I had and then have it go through the transcription itself. It takes care of all the busy work. So I'm a fan of AI Studio. Hopefully the other chatbots are eventually going to get this functionality. So I go here, upload a file. I'm just going to upload everything. Okay, while it's doing that, let's look at the prompt. I wrote the prompt here. I'm trying to write an SOP. So obviously write a standard operating procedure for a planner, scheduler, and facilities maintenance. I'm telling it the context I'm giving it. I'm attaching some voice recordings. I'm also telling it that I'm attaching a CSV with my own emails on the subject so it can extract some information from there. Giving it the format, saying give it a nice welcome paragraph. So the person comes in the first day of the job. It's not just here's a pile of paper. It's like, hey, welcome to our facility. This is what you can expect. Organize it hierarchically. So describe each task that this role is to perform and then give me a 1, 2, 3, 4 numbered list. And then just for our sake, because we're on YouTube here, or we're on LinkedIn, don't give people's names. In the real one, you could leave this out. Say, hey, talk to Mike Jones to initiate an insurance claim. But in this case, I'm just going to say, use the title. You should probably use both, right? Because you never know who's coming and going. And you never know how long it's going to be until this is used. So you don't know who's still going to be in the facility. Okay, so let's copy all that. And we can see that it's actually extracting the text while it's uploading. Okay, now it's reading through all my email files. And by the way, while we're on the subject, when you're using these open chatbots, I would be a little bit careful about using email files. You have to make sure it doesn't have any personal information, things that HR wouldn't want to get out there, like people's dates of birth, medical conditions, social security numbers, things like that. Okay, and set it to work. And bam, 61.5 seconds later, we have ourselves the beginning. Now, I should point out that while I was paused, it rejected my email file because it was too large. So it was too many tokens for it to go through. But not to worry, we're not done. So we're going to copy this, then we're going to go over to Perplexity. Now we're going to paste it into Perplexity. Perplexity has other capabilities. So sometimes it's advantageous to merge or go in a sequence like this. Okay, so I've added the prompt here. I'm saying review the attached role. It's for a major research campus. And I'm also including my own emails because Perplexity does have the context window to handle those. So now I can get all those tasks and role description components in that way. I'm also telling it to perform a thorough online search. This is going to be a deep research project and find any additional tasks that maybe we haven't thought of ourselves. What's industry standard here? And then I want to output it to a nicely formatted Word document. I'm telling it to add graphics, make it nice, make it pretty. And here you can see I've already added my emails and I've pasted in the original SOP and go. Lastly, we just want to come up with a job description for Indeed. Okay, so just write a position description for this position and we're going to post it. Stay away from deep research for something that simple. We already have all the information that we need. There we go. It's even given us the salary, key responsibilities, qualifications, preferred qualification. Beautiful. All right. And if you got value out of this, I'd appreciate it if you'd push the like button. And if you want to learn more about how to use AI to help streamline your operations, come on over to aicapitalist.biz and we'll talk business. And bam. So it took about 10 minutes and we watched it go through. You didn't watch, but it went through all the steps of research online. And it comes back with this huge output with some diagrams of how facility planners are typically organized, the workflows. This is part of its output to the screen, to the chatbot output, and KPI, key performance indicator dashboard, what that would look like. And it came up, it output a Word file, a Microsoft Word file. So we go to the Word file, which I have downloaded to this directory. Okay, so here it is. Here's what we've produced with using Perplexity combined with all this prompting. The enhanced edition, wrong date, got to fix that. So we have the intro, and then we have the role definition, and then we have the key performance indicators. So what it's done here is as we saw, we made the initial sort of breakdown of what we want this planner scheduler to do based on our meetings and conversations and notes. And that in and of itself was a huge value. But this is where you get with AI. It's not just that it's doing things faster. It's not just that it's iterating and doing rote tasks. It's actually getting you a much better answer than I could get to on my own. Think about it. How would you have typically done this? You would have just sat down with a piece of paper and just started writing. And you would have these conversations. Who knows how much of the conversation you would have caught? You miss things in your notes. Someone says something, you have to write it down. You miss things, you try to remember them. In this case, because you're using AI, you're getting the breadth of the conversation. And then you're doing a deep research project out of it. And then you're getting even more information, right? You're scouring the web and it's come up with all of these key performance indicators, these KPIs that are going to be pulled from industry standards. It's giving us the professional development requirements, and then it's going through all of our tasks. This is beyond what we had defined in our meetings, right? It's coming up with many additional tasks. So the next step is going to be to look through this and start cutting or modifying to customize to your site. But what you're seeing is it's done weeks worth of work in seconds. And it's much easier to highlight and delete than it is to come up with new things, to try to fill in the gaps in your own memory or in your own thinking, and to just get that comparison to what's industry standard out there. What more could we expect from a planner scheduler? how much more value could we get out of this position? For this type of project, I wouldn't necessarily rely on an automation. An automation is good if you have to do something iteratively. If I had an entire facility, like if I just bought petrochemical refinery that was empty, in that case, you would have to define out all the roles. You might make a spreadsheet, run it through an automation, and then produce a document like this. Now that we've validated this particular sequence or order or algorithm, this method of producing what we want, we could then define that into an automation. And then we could take that automation and we could run as many roles through it as we want. So that's if you're doing bulk hiring a whole team. In this specific case, I would not necessarily do it that way. There's one role to fill. But also, if you lose a person, we just had someone that we lost due to a medical condition, and we need to hire to replace that person. If you have the authorization, you can download the person's emails as a file. You can run it through a system like this where you're prompting the AI to identify different tasks that this person does. And then you're building out an SOP. Then the new person you hire, first of all, you're going to be able to hire the right person because you know what you're looking for much better than if you just had to sit there scratching your head in meetings saying, what did he do? What was that person did? Now you've got a really good definition. So you're hiring a much better fit. And then you're handing them an SOP of all the tasks that the person they're replacing did. And they have a much better chance at succeeding. And that's what we're all about at AI Capitalist. We're going to help you succeed.